Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Dino Times. I'm your host, Dakota Morgan, coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona. And today, we're actually going to be talking about something very important, I think. This is something where we're going to be talking about Jurassic, right? And Jurassic World Rebirth just dropped a trailer. And I feel like as a paleo-themed show, we at least have a duty to talk about it. So we're going to dive right in to Jurassic World Rebirth and kind of talk about, what's going on with Jurassic World, what's going on with these prehistoric creatures, what's happening here, and give my 2 cents on what's happening here as well. So as I said, Jurassic World Rebirth has dropped a trailer, and I've watched it about 50 different times, to say the least. And yeah, I think it's good. I really do think it's good, right? And of course, there's been heated debate online about new things, people who don't really understand what is happening here, and of course, the prehistoric creatures. In case you haven't figured out, this episode is going to be a mixture of fantasy sci-fi and, of course, real paleo. So looking at the real paleo side here first, we're looking at new and improved creatures that actually, like a Spinosaurus and the Quetzalcoatlus, we're looking at a new paleo-accurate, in a way, design. I have seen other people in the paleo community talk about how Quetzalcoatlus now looks like a Hoxagopteryx, but that's besides the point. I do think, actually, I will side with them. It looks like a Hoxagopteryx. I am always pronounce that one wrong, but it looks like a Hoxie, to say the least. Of course, Spinosaurus has had a redesign, and from what we've been able to tell from the toy and also that trailer, which has gotten people mad, which I don't understand, because it was baryonyx in Jurassic Park 3 with a sail put on it for effect to be similar to the Spinosaurus. And then that's what we thought Spinosaurus looked like. Then it proved not to be. But we get a more paleo-accurate, it's kind of chubby though, Spinosaurus. And we have, from the toy and from the artwork that we've seen and that trailer, has a webbed tail, it's in the water. Yes, we know Spinosaurus was in the water, half the time out. Hopefully we're going to see it do some damage on land, I really do. But at least walk on land. That's all I ask for, is that we at least see it walk on land. So we're looking at new paleo designs with that. We're looking at a big, thicker T-Rex, not skin-wrapped like in the previous Jurassic World movies. We're looking at a dinosaur here who has more muscle tone, more fat, more teeth, a lot of stuff where it actually is more paleo-accurate in a way, because T-Rex had a lot of muscle on the body, as far as we know, in the paleo record. So we're looking at designs here where it's going pretty nice. And we're looking at Titanosaurus, the sauropod we do see in the trailer. We see that one have a thin tail at the end. It's a long tail, and there was sauropods like the Diplodocus who did have a longer tail that was skinnier at the end. That we have done tests, and the tests have proven it could almost break the sound barrier like the Diplodocus. So either way, you may not be breaking the sound barrier with that tail, as you saw in the trailer, but that whip is going to do some serious damage. And as the paleo record kind of shows, we're looking at it, so as this recording in 2025, we're looking at it as that's going to do some damage. It could break the sound barrier, but sauropods, if they had that longer, thin tail at the tip there, they would use that as a whip as defense against predators. Because every now and then, you're going to have a really brave carnivore. Looking at that side too and continuing down the science route, but this kind of delves into the fantasy side here. We're looking at, there's a abomination, as it's called, and in the community it's been labeled as the D-Rex. From leaks and everything else, we'll see if that name does stick as for D-Rex. And people have been like, why do we have another monster in this? As a man, myself here, who studied genetics, has spent years in medical and with genes and just medical in general with exotic animals, as ex-zookeeper and person who's volunteered in fossil labs, worked in the museum and such. Looking at this here, I can tell you for a fact, you're not going to end up with a straight-up dinosaur your first round of genome splicing. You're not going to end up, as the Colossus team over there, that's currently working on de-extinction, you're not going to have the animal you want right away. And especially being, as I've said in the trailer, this is the research facility for the original Jurassic Park. You're not going to keep, here's the thing. Very few research facilities that can have a dangerous thing to society and to its workers is going to keep it isolated. That is how every biolab works. Sometimes that isolation is far away from that main facility. That is how that works everywhere. So they're like, oh, another island. That's what's going to happen. Staying on topic, we have that genetic monster. Shocking it lived this long since then, but also we don't know what's going to happen, a genetic anomaly. It is literally a genetic anomaly. You're not going to just try to clone a dinosaur, Henry Wu and them, and from what I know from genetics from the years, you're not just going to clone something and get it right straight away. You're not just going to have a two-headed raptor like we saw in there. Especially combining DNA, you're going to have weird stuff happen. And that's just me. But with that said as well, we're looking at a research facility. We're looking at, a genetic anomaly here. We're looking at more hyper-aggressive creatures. And in which case, it could be hyper-aggressive due to the training from the keepers on Site B, of course. But we haven't been told. This could be Site A. For all we've all just assumed Site A was the original park. But including San Diego and stuff is like that as well. San Diego is going to be the first one. So technically San Diego's Site A, technically. But that couldn't be either because it could be the facilities on the islands because they wanted to keep it all separate. And then when San Diego wasn't going to be a thing, they went to the island of Isla Nublar. Remember that in the lore too. It's honestly not that hard to follow. Listen, one thing didn't work out, another thing worked over here. In the world where we're following over 20 years of the Marvel Universe, I think y'all can keep up with this. It ain't that hard. It ain't that difficult. So, looking at this here, we have the science and the paleontological accuracy that we're having here. I will say that in quotes because there is some things, you could always improve on, but that is the movies in general. We have yet to see what these raptors are going to be. We don't know if they're just velociraptors, Deinonychus, we don't know. From the trailer so far, we've just seen the feet and we've known that they're big. And they just said raptors. That's all we have. And that's looking at the scientific side of / research side of Jurassic World Rebirth trailer. And so I honestly could do an episode on the lore of all this, but for the episode on the lore of everything going on here, I will definitely say check out for an episode later on the Lore Pod podcast that I host that's available wherever you listen to podcasts. That's the Lore Pod podcast. Available now wherever you listen to podcasts because we keep things mostly scientific here on the show of Dino Times. And, occasionally you'll see an episode of the Lore Pod on here, but that's, again, for a different thing. So check it out wherever you listen to the podcast. This has been Dino Times, and I've been your host, Dakota Morgan, coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona. And, of course, if you want to see more science, pop culture, video games, and all that, be sure to subscribe. Leave a like on the video and comment down below. We know there's a lot of stuff happening here, but when it comes to the science side and the paleo side of Jurassic World Rebirth and the trailer that we've seen and the marketing material and as of this recording, the toys. How do you feel the paleo side's going? Because I feel like they're actually really hardcore paying attention to this and making animals because they're going to be aggressive. Herbivores, they're a few hundred pounds. Some of them a couple thousand pounds. They're going to be aggressive. As a man who's worked with a rhino and megafauna before in a zoo, let me tell you, herbivores may eat plants, they still can be aggressive. It ain't a thing. And it looks like we're getting to that. Animals be animals, dinosaurs be dinosaurs. Thanks everyone for joining me on here. And of course, as always, remember, science is real.